Welcome back on the AM show. We get busy on those big stories, and we're hosting the members of parliament this morning in our studio. But before I get to them, of course, we know the minority is pushing for a debt ceiling, a sort of capping of our ability to borrow via parliament, and that has been on the radar. We heard from the former minority leader Haruna Idrisu. Yesterday we heard from the current minority leader as well, Dr. Cassio Atto Forson. The majority leader, Osei Che Mensah-Bonsu, says technically he agrees with them, but when you leave a certain history in the economy and another administration takes over on the back of your borrowing, can you expect them realistically not to borrow over and beyond what you did in a bid to maintain the economy? Those are the dynamics. We'd also be looking at the nomination of Justice Gertrude Tokonu as the next Chief Justice. And of course, we're going to be focusing on other matters to do with the economy and beyond. Joining the conversation, we have Member of Parliament for Kwadaso, Dr. Kingsley Nyako. It's been a while. It's good to have him join the conversation this morning. We also have Member of Parliament for South Dain, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo. I think the other day when you had that, you had your lawyers put out that call on Shraj as far as the Professor Frimpong Boateng thing was concerned. I saw a different name, an additional name. What's the additional name? You have some other...
Eche Kwame.
Eche Kwame.
Yeah.
Aha. So what's the order? Roxanne Eche Kwame Nelson Dafiamekpo. No, Roxanne Nelson
Eche Kwame
Dafiamekpo. All right.
I used to fight WAEC over this.
Because this one, fitting all of it onto you. I have seven.
Even Parliament had to accommodate me.
They had to accommodate.
So sometimes they reduce the fonts when it comes to my name.
I see. That's an interesting dynamic. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure to be
Doc,
here. And of course, my
good to have you.
My brother, Dr. Nyako.
Mobile show, no, so I check.
But yeah, bodies too.
Right from Kevat.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
I see. And you guys have been at it till now. Were
Not
you doing student politics?
I did. He didn't. He was a thorough academician. You know, we were a mixture of.
So a little surprised he's ended up where he's ended up as an academic.
You know, he eventually had to serve at the National Accreditation Board. So I wasn't surprised that he ended up there.
Right.
And then,
right.
And then the government decided to sponsor him to come to Parliament.
I see that mode has been activated very early. Let me move on from there. Gentlemen, thank you for joining the conversation. Today is going to be always hard. We're going to get into the issues. We'll do a bit of buga, but let's sanitize.
On Joy, it is pure
you no longer do buga.
Joy, it is pure academia.
So what do you do buga?
Joy, it is pure academia. This is a very serious platform.
Academia. Why do I feel you're already digging at Dr. Nyako? But let's start from the end that I always want to kickstart matters from. Your constituencies. How are they faring? It's been a while, Dr. Nyako. It's been a while too, Roxanne. I'll start with you, Dr. Nyako.
Okay.
What is Kwadaso like? What is changing in Kwadaso? Are things getting better in Kwadaso?
Yeah, so, Ben, very good morning to you. And my very good friend and brother, Roxanne. And let me say very good morning to your cherished viewers. You know, it's true. Since the beginning of this year, I've not been here. So it's a privilege, as always, to be here. My constituents, Kwadaso, by the grace of God, things are picking up. You know, I've been a member of parliament for 2 years, and there are some improvements in the constituency in terms of road infrastructure. Some roads have been built. Others are ongoing, and I'm optimistic that the outstanding ones will also be addressed by us through the government. Other programs, for example, last week I did some donation to the Ministry of Education where ICT equipment were given to some selected schools. Talking about 50 tablets, for each school, 2 schools involved. So about 100 projector, and also a laptop for the ICT teacher and other equipment we're giving as we speak. Quite as a constituency, I'm building a police station in a community called Pokukrom. It's almost done.
Called what? Bokrum?
Pokukrom. Yeah.
Okay.
So building a police.
You're building a police station.
Yeah, it's almost done. It's about 98% complete. It is being painted right now. There's a KG that has been completed. Another one at the roofing stage. You know, and there are a lot more. You know, I remember I donated a hematology analyzer, 3 parts. To a community hospital at a place called Apatrapa. And I mean, so numerous things are being done within this short time. Done my best to also lobby for Agenda 111 to be built in the constituency. Luckily for us, I've also lobbied so hard to get AstroTurf. I think the groundbreaking will be done this month, hopefully on the 13th of May and all that. So, my brother, I mean, and other, for example, the 30 constituents that are put into vocational institutions, some of them are learning how to sew, how to make hair, and all. 30 of them fully sponsored by me.
30 of them?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the equipment that they are using, I provided.
So sewing machines,
hair dryers, and all that. You know what I mean? So these are some of the things that's done in the constituency. I'm also visibly involved in the constituency. I go to the communities, I visit markets, I visit churches. You know, I'm there for the people. I interact with them freely and all that. You know, there are some that we've been able to offer scholarships, job opportunities. We do our best because then it was the people who gave us this privilege. So we need to also make sure that their lots are improved.
All right.
Serving quite so well, you know what I mean? So if you come to Parliament, one of my main responsibilities is to be in Parliament, to take part in debate and other activities on the floor, asking questions that benefit the region and the nation, and Roxanne will attest to that. Actively engage in debates on the floor, issuing statements and all that. So
those we see. I just wanted us to stick to the constituency. But just a quick follow-up on this before I come to Roxanne. I saw you looking at your time. I hope you're... Anyway, so just to reiterate, yesterday we had fire service personnel here. It was a very interesting conversation. It's fantastic what you're doing with the police station. Security issues. Yeah. There are many areas that need police outposts that don't have them. Yeah. So that's fantastic. But also consider, I know Kwadaso is a pretty big constituency. Your population is huge. Yeah. Okay. I don't know what the dynamics are when it comes to fighting fires. You know, in most areas, they were citing yesterday that that whole place, you don't have a fire outpost. Maybe one might have to come from Ablinkpe and the rest. So that is something I would proffer for you. As we're putting up a police station, also think of places. They say sometimes just give them land and then something will start. So you can look at that as well.
So one is being built there. I think we have issues regarding the ownership
of the land?
No, of the fire. I mean, the structure is there. So we need to find a way of establishing the ownership so that we can take off, you know what I mean? So, it's a very good question, and the MC and I, we are doing our best to get it done, you know, to get it operationalized. Yeah, so it's a fair point. You know, fire disasters are becoming one too many, and this is a time for us to make sure that we have the office to combat fires when they do arise.
So the other bit I wanted to find out, so with all of these things you're doing, how are you funding them? Are they coming from your common fund? I always find it curious. I always want to get to the bottom of it. How are you funding all of these projects? How are you purchasing these sewing machines, hair dryers, How are you putting up this
Yeah.
police station? And do you feel it will do enough for you to carry on in terms of your party's primaries when they come off? As for them, their primaries have started. Yours haven't started. Do you think this will put you in good stead?
So I mean, 2 years and we are still counting. For me, what is important is to do something that benefits the communities. The police station, for example, when I became the member of parliament, I did town hall meetings in almost all the communities. And that was a request. They needed a police station. It was done for them. And for me, that is significant. And the police station is being constructed to by common fund, okay? There are other interventions.
How much have you expended on the police station so far?
I think I can't give you the figures, but I think that in all, I don't want to quote a figure that will be misleading, okay? But it is being funded, solely through common fund. I don't handle the finances.
Can you give us a guesstimate? Can you give us a guessing approximate? Have you expended, let's say, over 200,000 Ghana cedis?
Oh, no, I think it's gone beyond that.
It's gone beyond 200,000.
I mean, the entire project wouldn't cost less than 400,000 Ghana cedis. It wouldn't cost less than that, because when we put up the structure, the police estate department came there to make sure that it meets their standard,
for purpose.
And they introduced some additions.
Construction
that
cells,
additions,
those
yes, they even asked us to even wall it. The first time I've seen police station being walled, I even spoke with them. They said that is the new directive.
New model.
So all these things have been done. All these things are going to increase even our initial projection for the facility.
Okay.
So I'm sure when everything is is done, we'll get to it.
And you feel in the primaries you'll be retained on the back of all the work you're doing?
That is my conviction.
Okay, all right.
However, you see, but some of these things is the people who decide.
The people
and I'm
decide.
sure
The delegates will decide.
I'm sure. I mean, they will do that. But
all right.
But to conclude on this, some of these things too are also done through lobbying. You lobby, you collaborate. At times, I collaborate. With private persons to get some things done. Recently, I was able to get some items for persons with disabilities. I collaborated with a particular institution, ably supported by Edward Watson, former ambassador to China. A lot of people benefited, wheelchairs, walking sticks, and all that. So at times you collaborate, at times you lobby. The Ghana Gas, for example, I had to lobby.
So you fall on other people as well, apart from dipping into your common fund.
Yes.
And
your own
do
resources,
other things, your own resources.
Your own resources and friends.
It's interesting. So the last time someone was telling me about how much MPs purportedly spend in a month. How much have you spent in the last month? Let's check your inflation. How much or deflation, if you like? How much did you spend in the last month out of your pocket?
Yes, it's a trap, but you know what I mean.
No, this is not a trap.
No,
it's reality.
No. The point is that
did you spend upwards of, because I heard something about over 40,000 CDs.
Expenditures differ according to your budget, your strength, and all.
In the last month, in
monkeys play by sizes. You know what I mean.
Monkeys play by sizes.
Yeah. So you play according to. So
what is your size in there? Are you spending 20K a month, 40K a month, 10K a month?
I wouldn't want to put a figure on that, but spend substantial amount of money on our constituents, because the demands come, the requests. Right. Some are genuine.
Thank you.
It also meet them.
Thank you, Dr. Nyako. Let me come to you. I'll start from there. I will not start from your constituency. How much are you spending averagely in a month?
I'm in the throes of my primaries, and so I'm spending heavily.
You're spending heavily?
Yeah, it's...
You're bleeding? I'm
bleeding. Yeah, it's... to be very honest with you, and it's very expensive.
Into who bleedy? And our constituents no feel
it. Well...
Oh, you know me so.
You can say that, but we are... Every NDC MP presently is bleeding heavily. Yes.
But why, though?
Good times.
You see... there's a very queer feeling to this. It's as though you maintain the constituents for all these years, and then You maintain your branch executives as well.
When you say maintain, what do you mean?
Yes, you sponsor a lot of things. You sponsor funerals.
Education.
You pay for rent. You pay for education. You pay medical bills. You pay for outdoors. You pay for child support. You pay for farming. You know. So, and the demands come bits and pieces. Every day they pour in. Even this morning, I have received a lot of requests. Personal interventions. Now, this continues until when it gets to another election cycle such as this, everyone thinks that, well, then this is the time to put my demand across because you're under pressure to meet it. So you don't incur somebody's displeasure. So that is by the by. In respect of South Dye, in terms of education, even though I'm an MP under an opposition MP in a government that I do not belong, I can say that I have lobbied for a lot of things for my constituency. If you go to GAFCO, for instance, in Piki, there's a 4-story Get Fund project. It's been completed for girls. They are using it. The GAFCO College Road is being done as part of the Eastern Corridor main road works. It's never happened before, but it's happening under my watch and lobbying. I actually had to mobilize the CEO, the group CEO of First Sky, group of contractors to go there and make his own assessment and approve of the request. The same GAFCO, there's a very huge assembly hall complex which is under construction. As a result of my intervention, payment, contractor is receiving payment, so the project is ongoing. That's just for GAFCO alone. If you go to Piki Secondary Technical at Wudome, there's a brand new girls' dormitory constructed by Get Fund, also through my lobbying intervention. There's a twin boys hostel, also through my intervention. An assembly hall has been, an administration block has been completed, but not handed over yet. If we go to the basic schools, if we go to Chanakbe, which is my community, a brand new secondary school started by John Mahama, but 1 or 2 projects have been completed. Beve Secondary Technical, we are a brand new boys' dormitory has been completed but given to girls because where the girls were, it's this much to be desired, so it was swapped. So now we are making efforts to get another one constructed for the boys. Beve SHS needs a lot. Pestec, the old students themselves have done some painting. They painted 1 or 2 blocks. I've also done a lot of intervention in terms of infrastructure. In terms of teaching aid, I've supplied laptops to the Education Directorate to be given to ICT teachers to support teaching of ICT in the constituency. It's not every school that got it, but that's a phase 1. There will be a phase 2.
Okay.
Now, I'm constructing a kindergarten through my use of common fund at one of the communities called Baibome. I've renovated classroom blocks at Agodake, brand new. I've also, through my intervention at the assembly and with support of the assembly, constructed the brand new GSS block with ancillary facilities at Palimedugan. If you go to Tool Vocational, there's a huge improvement as part of the government's program to improve all the vocational institutions in the country. Honestly, if I wasn't sitting in Parliament that day, I would have lost out. Because when the list of schools came, Tool Vocational was missing completely. So I needed to speak to Speaker Michael Kwe, draw his attention to it. And then he agreed that if I have a school like that, then they had to be included. So quickly we had to take photographs of the existing school, provided to, then it was Dr. Dr. Prempe, who was then Napo, who was the education minister, and he approved of it. And truth be told, we got more projects than even the originally selected school. We got 5 projects. A 75-bed capacity dormitory for both boys and girls. So that's about 150. Then we have a brand new administration block for Tool Vocational. Then we have a brand new workshop, as well as a 1-story classroom block So that is for 2 vocational alone. Now, if we get to support to the Education Directorate, I support my BEC candidates every year. I sponsor their extra classes so that they get better, they prepare better as candidates. I also support them with materials and all that. And I support the directorate sometimes in their monitoring and evaluation when they have to go around and monitor the schools. There's no funding. The secretariat doesn't receive any money anymore. So it's the MPs who have to give them money, support them in terms of even maintenance of vehicles, fueling, office maintenance, all those things. I do that. When we speak of health, I have health centers in Kumbunikope, Tongo Chanakwe, Balimeduga, Tongo Kaira, Abuichita, Chate, Todome, which is the district capital. Then I have a health center or Chiefs Compound at Kbeibome, health center at Bekbalime, Chiefs Compound at Sanga, health center at Shinu, health center, which is now a polyclinic at Pekijake, then a Chiefs Compound at Pekiwudome, then a health center at Pekiajokwe. Then I have the Peki Government Hospital, which is at Chami. I've supported them supply medical equipment, very expensive, but which is helping them to be able to offer first aid and medical attention to, my my constituency is mainly rural, apart from Peki conurbation and Kwebe the capital, the rest are fairly rural. So you need those health centers to be well equipped to be able to handle the medical emergencies that will emerge from those communities before you could be rushing them to Peki Government Hospital, which is the main health facility as the mainstay of the district. Now, successfully lobbied for, again, Agenda 111. Again, if I were not in Parliament that day, would have lost out. Because when government decided to do the phase 1 of the project, they selected, initially the list came, it was 36. And in the Volta region, instead of 7 districts that didn't have district hospitals and therefore needed to be factored in, it was 6. And again, where Peve was missing. So again, I had to get up. And then Speaker Michael Kwe said, yes, you were very instrumental in passing the emergency bills. You were on your feet, contributing very well towards the legislation. So if there are benefits as a fallout of those legislation as part of the COVID-19 emergency relief responses, you have to benefit. So, Honorable Minister, kindly consider Honorable Defiamepo. And that was considered.
Right.
And let me say that the project, the president has been there twice.
Okay.
He visited the site twice within last year. And it's progressing. I think the last time I visited there was 2 weeks ago. If I know, I would have sent you. I would have forwarded the photographs to you. Strassels have been,
Your counterpart has just shared some photos with me. So
okay.
Eventually, when you get yours,
yes, I will. No, they are here. They are here. They are here. I'll just after I speak. After speaking, I'll send them. Strassels have been affixed on top, so roofing will soon be done.
Okay.
And then it will be a huge boost, especially to the district capital, because this is a growth pool project. It has this way of attracting other businesses in terms of accommodation, pharmacies, and all that.
So I get exactly what you're saying. I wanted to dedicate the first 20 minutes to this confab, which we've done. We've hit 8.
So social intervention, I've done a lot. I've also built a police station for my predecessor started it. I came to finish at Peki District Command. So the command used to be in a rented premises at Pekijake. Now they've moved to Avetile. And during my time, they didn't have a vehicle.
Right.
So I had a district commander called DSP Autry, who is the director for transport now at the headquarters. And he, together with myself, we lobbied and got a brand new pickup for the Peki District Command, which they are using now. I have 2 police commands. the Kpeve District Command and the Peki District Command. Peki is the original, but Kpeve got it because of the elevation as the district capital.
Right.
So they don't have vehicle. They have an old one, which I keep maintaining, and I think that they also deserve a new one.
Okay, so just to move on from here, I want us to get into substantive matters, but just in some 30 seconds, with all these things you're doing, as your primaries have taken off,
Yes.
and
In fact, my
while you
primaries
still have to nurture
Yes.
your constituents, do you feel it will keep you in good stead to continue
Absolutely.
with the work you're doing?
Absolutely. And
right.
there are a few disgruntled people. We are still talking to them, but absolutely, I'm winning in 10 days' time.
All right,
Yes.
you're winning in 10 days' time.
Yeah.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty, and of course, let me properly address you. I just got wind of the fact
And let me
you're
say
now...
this. Let me say this. Let me say gratitude to Dr. Kwame Ampofu, my predecessor, who's doing a lot. My team on the ground, my branch executives, constituency executives, and all the people who are working to ensure that I get re-elected. I'm so grateful. Mr. Vudo, Jonas Anyadi, Mr. Amwa, the Peki team led by Ajana, Newell, Jidepu, all those guys. Very grateful to them.
All right.
The Kpeve team, Kelly and co, Mr. Mote, very grateful to them.
All right. So we're grateful to all of them.
Yes.
I just got wind of this. So you are now associate professor?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So Dr. Nyako, I guess I can start calling you Prof now.
I think so.
Well,
Yeah, I think so.
well, Ed.
Well, congratulations on that feat, and we wish you rise even higher. In the military, they will say, what is a field marshal? That's in some jurisdiction. The highest. We don't know what is beyond that.
If I go back to academia.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because I can't be a professor when you're in academia.
Right. Of course. But I'm saying that beyond that, maybe at a point you become an emeritus. But of course, that is not really a title. It's just when you are. You've exhausted the system. So let's get into the very pertinent matters we want to look at. And we've already taken a swipe at your constituencies and your re-election bids and all of that. Let's stay in Parliament.
Yeah.
Recently, of course, there's been a lot of talk about the $750 million that has been approved, so to speak, for different projects across the country, loan facilities, if you like. And some, in fact, your minority leader, Dr. Kasialato Forsen, had to talk about capping the loans. In fact, in recent times, we've spoken about the Bank of Ghana, for example, which has been directed, so to speak. The IMF, in some engagements, have made mention of the fact that we cannot keep doing this. The lending to government must stop, or at least have a cap in some form. Here we are with same coming up in Parliament. Former Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu has also brought this point to the fore. I'll start with you, Roxanne. This latest surge, this latest tranche, $750 million, you look at what they're going to be used for, and a number of items underneath, from the West African food security bit to the setting up of a development bank. How many of those do we need, though? To $30 million for COVID-19 medical equipment, to $150 million for primary health care projects, $200 million for digital acceleration, among others. And then, of course, we also have the Swami Interchange and Konongo bypass, among others. But I'd like to find out from you, what do you make of this latest development?
Now, it's not correct that we only approved 750. What we approved totaled 1.64 billion.
So the 750 was for the Swami Interchange and Konongo bypass?
Yes, and that loan, it's so controversial.
Why?
Controversial because government comes back to Parliament to say that originally you had approved some money for the construction of the bridge over the Afram, from Kwahu South to Afram Plains, North and South constituencies or districts. And that was the intendment. And then you come back and say that you want to reallocate that to construct a bypass between Konongo and Ejisu. That is unacceptable. You could have looked for another loan to do that.
Another loan?
Yes.
But what would you say about another loan?
But why would you come to Parliament? Go through all the processes of approval, including scrutiny and parliamentary committee report.
What does that mean? Do you think you were hoodwinked, deceived?
I am not saying so. Those are your words.
But
I'm
suggesting
saying,
it.
what do
You are
no,
actually
but what do
suggesting
you
it.
expect the people of Kwahu South or Kwahu in general, the people in Tafo, in Teso, Kotoso, Asaka, Pipiase, Bukrua, in Praiso, Bepon, what do you expect them to achieve? What do you expect them to feel? And the people in Donkokro, in Ketepa, Adosun, how do you expect them to feel? So when exactly are you going to come back to look for another facility to do that for them? That is the point. It means you are prioritizing one major infrastructure project over theirs.
But is that not what governance is all about?
No, that is not governance is all about. It is not.
Priorities at any given time.
So
you may have a different set of priorities, but
so
you
what
have
is
that
the, so what is
scale
the
of
hold on?
preference,
So what
right?
is the overriding consideration in this matter?
What do you think?
I don't know, but I'm raising the matter. 2, we have also been told that we should approve, which we have done. We approved 60.6 for COVID response project. And this is what the report says regarding that matter. And it's shocking because this is what the committee actually observed.
You tell us
Yes, the committee says
the
that
investigation revealed.
some members of the committee expressed concerns about the propriety of approving additional funding for COVID-19 activities when resources already approved for COVID-19 expenses had not been properly accounted for. Have you read the special auditor's report? We've been told that we have $80 million sitting with UNICEF. Have you interrogated that matter? That's what Auditor General is saying. Monies we've given to UNICEF to supply vaccines that they have not supplied. I'm not saying so. It's the Auditor General. And yet we are looking
The
for...
health minister corroborated.
Yes, and yet
at
we are
point.
looking for 60
And we
million.
were told that, of course, we didn't have
but-
all the storage facilities at a point, and that we had got,
Yes.
the donations to,
But
come in, all of
listen
that.
to the purpose for this loan. Justification for the project. The rationale for the additional financing is to scale up interventions towards accelerated socio-economic recovery and revitalization. The 60.6 million funding from IDA will provide upfront financing for safe and effective vaccine deployment in Ghana. We have money sitting with UNICEF to supply vaccines that we have not yet received. We are looking for additional funding to go and do what? For effective vaccine deployment.
So your plan
This
is we have some money sitting with UNICEF.
More
We
than
should
the 60
we
million.
should rather use that
Let's
money.
retrieve that money.
So what happens, COVID-19, we're not out of the woods. You know
I'm not
that.
saying we are.
The World Health Organization says it may not be a pandemic anymore, but it's something that's going to be like the common flu. It's going to be seasonal. It's going to come up from time to time. Recently, I read about some new strain out there. What do you suggest we do when these hit
The
us?
thrust of my argument, the gravamen of my argument is that we don't need this money. We have more than this amount of money sitting with an international agency. So it's not a simple matter of recalling the money and buying more than what this facility is supposed to do. That's my point. Again, we've been asked to approve 170 million euros, which is the equivalent of $210 million, to set up a development bank in this republic.
I found that a bit curious, but tell me, what are your concerns?
My concern is that we have a development bank, a great development bank.
Some would say its focus is on agriculture.
Exactly. One of the facilities, the one on fighting food insecurity, the report itself says that 90% of households in this country survives on agriculture. So wisdom should tell us that this $210 million should be given to ADB to be able to fund agro processing, agro-related activities.
So especially in a time when the banks are bleeding, when
Thank you.
a lot of them are incurring
Thank you.
losses.
We are abandoning...
These 170
yes.
million euros should rather have been given to the African Development
Yes. No, not Africa, but Agri Development Bank.
The ADB, right.
Or with
Agri
NIB.
Development Bank.
Because NIB is about National Investment Bank. So anywhere an indigene or foreigner wants to invest, that will bear fruit for the economy. We ought to have done that. You don't need to set up another state apparatus. Is it not this government that told us last year in its budget as part of the austere measures that they won't set up any statutory body anymore? Is it not the same government? They told us. I didn't say it.
It is.
You said that you won't set up any more statutory bodies, any more state apparatus, because it's a bleed on the public purse. But now we are looking for money to set up a development bank. So unreasonable. Again,
Do you think in the end, though, a quick one on that, the Agri Development Bank does what it does, but do you think, I mean, look at what happened with the Commander Sugar Factory and where we had to get a loan from, for which we're still not out of the woods. This whole Commander Sugar Factory thing is a matter on its own. But do you feel beyond agriculture, we need development banking, so to speak, to shore up our economy in different ways? Look at infrastructure, for example.
There's a development component in what ADB does. There's NIB. NIB funds infrastructure. NIB has given a lot of loans to a lot of contractors, if you look at their loan portfolio. There's a Ghana Commercial Bank. They fund a lot of infrastructure projects in this country. We have other commercial banks that help to do that. We have Stanchart, we have Barclays, which is now ABSA. We have Zenith Bank, we have named them. Government itself, as part of the financial sector reforms, collapsed some banks and consolidated some, merged them into what they call the
CBG.
CBG. Why not recapitalize CBG? For instance, why not tell Parliament that CBG, having worked as a consolidated bank for the past 5 years, you've reviewed their books, you think that they are doing well, so they need to be recapitalized or they need to be assisted to do more. It would have sounded more reasonable in these times.
Right. So that point there is made. But when you look at the different items on the menu, so to speak, the food security, West African food security bit, I think recently there was a report emanating from one of the bodies of the UN stating that food security could be a problem in Ghana and I think the Ivory Coast, among other countries. So food security is key there. You've already shared your thoughts on the development bank. There's $30 million COVID-19 medical equipment.
Yes.
There's also $150 million in terms of primary health care projects, another $150 million for public finance management programs, and then $200 million for digital acceleration program. It appears the digital drive is going very hard. What's your quick take on these as well?
First of all,
prudent investments?
No. First of all, government should be accounting to us. The colossal amount of money we have approved for the planting for food and jobs, the planting for food and exports, all that. What is happening? If we agree that we have food insecurity in this country, and therefore we need money, we need loan to tackle it, what happened to these lofty, highfalutin sounding government agro programs?
1D, 1F.
Thank you. What happened?
Planting for
I will not
food
even
and
go
jobs.
to 1D, 1F. I will stay with the basic primary fundamental one. That if when it had been done properly, we'll simply put food on the table of multitude of
Planting
Ghanaians.
for food and
Planting
jobs.
for food
Right.
and jobs. What happened to it? So that today we must go and look for a loan to say that we have food insecurity. When we say that people can't feed, there's no food, they say there's abundance of food. Yet you are in Parliament asking for money to fight food insecurity. Now, primary health care. We've asked them, tell us which health facilities are you going to apply this fund to improve. Tell us, give us the breakdown. No indication. It's just an omnibus term. Is it going to affect Kolebu? Is it going to affect La? Because La has been abandoned for the past 3 years. An existing hospital that has been
the
pulled
hospital
down.
facility. Right?
Yes. So we need to know Then we can monitor properly as Parliament, because ever often, he and I are blamed as MPs who approve loans and go back to sleep. So we want to monitor where these monies are going to be applied. There's no indication. Regarding the COVID-19 30 million medical equipment, again, we want to know which hospitals will benefit. No indication. I want my Peki government hospital to benefit, of course. So if we are not in the list, then I can stand on my feet and make a case for it. Because we have not received government intervention by way of medical supplies or even some equipment intervention in a very, very long time. Not since I came to power or I became MP since 2017. Nothing. Every intervention has had to come from me. They are poor hospital beds. Equipments have become obsolete. They need expansion. All that. So if we will benefit, then I can make a case for it. But if my hospital in Pekichame is absent, then I need to make a case for it. There's no indication. Now you speak of the digital acceleration.
And we have to...
Yes, I'll wrap up. I'll wrap up.
I just want to get your bit on that so that we can also quickly look at how we can, whether it's feasible to curb excessive borrowing. So I can also move to...
Okay. Now that again sounds as an euphemism for some program. No details have been given. No, it has to be properly structured. We need to understand what is the meaning of digital acceleration program. Because we've been doing online business, justice, that is e-justice, all this before they came to power. So I need to understand exactly what that means. What I found very dubious of all the loans is the 150 million public financial management program for service delivery.
Do you have any idea what goes into that?
No, because I questioned this when the budget was presented, when the finance ministry presented its budget and the report was approved. I asked, what in God's name does resource mobilization mean? How do you say that you need money to improve resource mobilization and allocation, budget execution, and accountability, which will in turn enable better public service delivery?
Are we looking at revenue mobilization?
This is so nebulous.
Revenue mobilization, maybe?
Look.
You fish for money with money,
Hold on. No. You have been paid to do your job as a GRA staff. Why do I have to go and borrow money to do something?
We've been talking about widening the tax net, ensuring that many more people are paying their taxes, so we don't.
Is that not the job? Is that not the job of GRA?
Of the population?
Is that not why GRA sits heavily on our public purse?
Does it prevent the system from or establishment from helping?
They do this. They do this every year. This particular line of expenditure features in the budget of the finance ministry every year. I've just discovered. So I am asking, what is the meaning of resource mobilization? Why do you spend money for resource mobilization? I want to understand.
So maybe you should put a question on the floor of Parliament. You should lay that question. You say you raised this issue when the budget was being debated.
Yes.
Maybe you should put together some statement on this and see what the response will be from the finance minister.
And the amount that they allocated in the budget for this is not. This is just a fraction of what has been quoted. So. Look, this is nothing but a conduit for siphoning money. I will be this blunt.
I want us to focus on this. Is there an avenue, and I know there are avenues within Parliament where you can haul ministers before you to respond to certain things. I just want to know, what are you going to trigger on that specifically?
First,
if it's a line item that has been showing debate out, what are you going to do?
First, a question. To demand an explanation for this and the expenditure patterns and what truly goes into it. But I can say this. About 3 weeks ago, a certain company called SML Ghana is supposedly in some contract with the GRA and the Ministry of Finance to help improve our tax collection system or revenue mobilization.
I've heard.
Yes. The company was just set up in 2017. They have no track record. 2017. How do you give them such a colossal contract? They have no track record. Two, you recall that this government again recruited a foreign company called McKinsey to help some revenue mobilization efforts at Ministry of Finance and GRA. We've been asking questions, what exactly did McKenzie do within that period, and what has been the outcome, if any?
At what cost to the,
And at what cost?
to
And
the
the
ordinary
benefits.
Ghanaian? Right.
Yeah, we've been asking. But finally, he and I, we were sent by Speaker just last week to Kenya to attend a very important seminar on public debt and debt management and all. And one of the key recommendations from that seminar is that as a country, we need to have a ceiling on how much we borrow. We also need an annual borrowing calendar.
Annual borrowing calendar and a ceiling, a cap.
Yes.
Now, we know that as far as the Bank of Ghana is
Yeah.
concerned, there are going to be certain caps in terms of how much it will give government, for example, in any fiscal year. But I just want to find out, the point was raised by the majority leader that you can't expect to leave a certain debt overhang or certain economic situations for another administration to come in and not borrow or over-borrow to deal with some of those situations. How do you react to that? Very quickly.
I think the majority leader got the tangent of the question wrong from the minority leader.
Are you suggesting he didn't understand what you were saying?
Perhaps. You see, the minority leader is not saying don't borrow. He says that the rate of borrowing between 2017 and now is being astronomical. So there need to be a cap so we can interrogate the figure. For instance, I'm asking that we should
And let that be your final point.
We should audit our debt.
Okay.
The borrowings that we've done so far within the past 7 years, we need to vet it. We need to audit it. Are we getting value for money? We need to audit it.
And that lies in your bosom in Parliament. Let me go to Professor Nyako now. I've already mentioned the figures. You're well aware of them. Over $1 billion that have been put forward now from the Swami Interchange and Konongo Bypass all the way down to primary healthcare projects, COVID-19, among others. Especially in reaction to some of what he's said. Digital acceleration program. What is going to go into that? It's a bit vague. And of course, the one he mentioned as well, the COVID-19 bits. When you look at these figures, what do you see? Why do you find these to be crucial at this point in time? And looking at where we find ourselves, the IMF program we're looking for, is it apt to be going in for such loans for a development bank, for example? What is your take?
So thanks again, Ben. I want to commend Roxanne for the great things he's doing in his constituency, South Dai. And I was happy when he said that Agenda 111 in his constituency is progressing. And for me, I think it is something laudable. The government is doing something right. The Agenda 111 project was bastardized and all that, but if it is progressing in his constituency, and I think that at the end of the day is going to benefit his constituency. Roxanne is a very solid guy, and I'm praying that his constituents will really let him to come to the August House.
Are you praying for him too?
Yes, we do.
Right,
Okay.
So
it's good to know the prayer isn't one-sided.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I mean, the issues about the loans, for most of these loans that yesterday we passed had been sitting on our books. They are not new loans that had been contracted. You know what I mean? The 750.
That's why I'm interchange one.
Yes. You know what I mean? All these loans, we had dealt with them, but they had not been, approved. That was why we were asked to come back to get the approval. Loans are parts of the calculus in administering any country or any economy. They are part of it. I mean, we were, as I said, we were together in Kenya, and we were even told that U.S. was even struggling to meet its debt obligations. Even an advanced economy like U.S. is struggling, let alone a developing economy like ours that was exposed by the ravaging effects of COVID-19 and all that. So we know that we need to enhance domestic revenue. Ben, that is the way to go. If you're able to improve upon domestic revenue, it will help us to be able to cut down on borrowing. We will borrow, but not to the levels that we do. It's all because of balance of payment, shortfalls, deficit, and all that. There are so many needs of the people, bad roads, inaccessibility to medical facilities. These are issues that government has to deal with. And how do you deal with them? You need money. And if your domestic resource envelope is not enough to deal with that, then it becomes difficult not to look for external support or domestic support in terms of getting some loans to deal with them. So, and Ben, and you agree with me, as we speak, our tax to GDP ratio is hovering around 30%. We'll be able to move it from 11% when we took over in 2017 to 13%, which is way, way, way below.
But while you seek to do that, people will tell you shouldn't tax people and businesses into the ground. The business community has, from the Chamber of Commerce to GUTA to everybody, has been crying foul
our tradition
on the back of that.
Our tradition.
VAT has been increased. Everything is going.
Our tradition.
And we still have COVID-19 levies on our books. What is that doing?
Ben, our tradition, the NPP tradition, is a conservative tradition. And one of our cardinal elements or principles is that we need to go for low taxes. That is our tradition.
Low taxes.
Yes, that was why when we won power, we made sure that about 17 taxes either were removed entirely or the threshold was reduced. Okay, that was why we did that. But the COVID-19 levy that we are talking about, the additional taxes were in response, okay, to the shortfalls in revenue during the period of COVID-19. How do we increase our resource envelope to be able to deal with that? Okay, so that is why we find ourselves in this particular situation. Governments, previous governments, also borrowed. Okay, they borrowed to face some needs. The interchanges that the NDC administration built, were financed through loans. Okay, so that is the issue. Now, these loans were passed yesterday. My point is that how do we make sure that these loans are put into a better use, a use that will meet the intended purpose and objective, a use that will benefit the people? The diversion of the $98 million facility for the Accra-Kumasi bypass, okay, even though there's been a diversion, for all you know, reassessment underscore the fact that, for example, it will be more beneficial handling this particular portion of our roads as compared to the. It doesn't mean that government has closed its eyes completely or entirely from that enclave, okay? Reprioritization underscore that. Swami Interchange, for example, the $75 million that also has been diverted to work on that facility. If you go to Swami, the congestion, the traffic and all that, believe that when that part is opened up, it will ease vehicular flow and it will also benefit the people. So it's not the case that maybe the government doesn't even think about them. Okay, they are human beings. The government, if the government didn't even think about them in the first place, the government wouldn't have even thought about them by trying to use this facility.
I get the point you're making, loans for development. But when you look at some of what we're contracting the loans for example, this development bank, another $150 million that we're going to sink into that project. How does that, doing some logical reasoning on the back of what we know, the NIB, the ADB and all of that, and in our circumstances, when your purse strings are even not being pulled by you yourself to some extent, where we find ourselves, why are we doing this? What's the justification?
So the Development Bank Ghana, the idea is to fuel development in terms of support to businesses, support to small, medium-scale enterprises to enhance their capacity. Because apart from even increasing our domestic envelope, Ben, one other issue is to also enhance our export capacity. If the development bank's sole objective is to focus on how do we get this economy developed by targeting certain specific sectors. At the end of the day, the hard currency we are going to get will also help us in lessening the pressure on the foreign currency that we used to import and all that. So the focus is different. He talked about National Investment Bank. It has its own purpose, a circle of operation. If you, Agricultural Development Bank, for example, is also targeted. Development Bank Africa looks at how do we make sure that we are able to support, certain businesses for them to enhance their capacity to boost export, value addition, and all that. That is the focus. So, and the money involved is about 700 million euros or dollars or so. And this one is coming from the European Investment Bank to support that. And I think that, it is something laudable. Policies by governments, at times, you see, if you're not careful, at the face of it, you might kick against it, Ben, but it will turn out to be beneficial to you. Initially, the NDC administration kicked against Agenda 111. It was needless, not important. It will add to, the public desktop. No. That was their cry in opposing it. Now, my good friend sits here and is happy that in his constituency, it is progressing. At the end of the day, government is contracted loan to achieve that. But then, it will face some of these problems. Somebody who will be having medical challenges will be sorted out instead of carrying the person or throwing the person to who.
Do you know my problem with some of these projects and projections?
You tell me.
In fact, you didn't start promising these hospitals just a few years ago. It started from back even in the first term of this administration. Now you're promising 111 with some in districts, some in regions, and all of that. The feasibility of it all even is very questionable. How many months do we have left to election 2024? And the feasibility of completing these hospital facilities. So as we keep expending money, some of them will not be completed. If there's a rollover, even if your administration is retained in power, whether his administration comes, questions will be raised about this and that. That is what leads to abandoned projects and the rest. So sometimes I don't think it is about necessarily saying that it is wrong to put up a hospital. No one would say that. Of course, it would also depend on which catchment area. If you already have 2 hospitals in a catchment area, or 1 even, you wouldn't want to add another hospital there when there is the need for others. But I'm saying that these are some of the dynamics on the back of which, whether it's civil society or the minority, would say, look, are these feasible in the first place? Are we going to get value for money? Are these going to be complete at a time so that people can make use of them? All of these go into that. So when people question them or probe, those are the reasons.
Oh, but I will not fight against any legitimate, inquiries or questions on this. That is fair because we are citizens and we demand value for money. But my point is that we must also look at other side of every issue. Okay, so the hospital that you are talking about, there's cost into it, right? But at the end of the day, there's also benefit to it. Why don't we also look at that? The benefit aspect and not only fixating on the cost aspect. The employment is going to create for the nurses and doctors that we train them. You can have about 3 hospitals within an enclave. It is about the accessibility. It's about, creating jobs for, because Ben, every year we churn out nurses. Every year we churn out medical doctors. Where do they go? If you have facilities, they will absorb them. That is how nations, develop. I agree that we need to check, our borrowing pattern. Fair enough.
Should we have a debt ceiling?
Already,
or a borrowing ceiling, so to
I don't know what exactly our friends on the other side mean by debt ceiling. Because
the Americans have a system, and while the Republicans are pulling Biden, in a way it works.
I'm making a point. In 2018, the 7th Parliament passed the Fiscal Responsibility Act at 928. And that act says that we shouldn't obtain a fiscal deficit of below 5%. In August...
You mean beyond 5%?
Not, it shouldn't go beyond 5%.
Right.
In August 2020, the finance minister went back to Parliament and because of COVID, said that that particular law should be suspended. And as we speak, I don't know, I think it's still suspended.
Which also points to how exactly, even post-COVID, or we're out of the throes of COVID. Let's be fair. And again, we'll even be told about the underlying items which show that actually we're even overshooting that.
We are not out of the woods here. But the point I'm making is that if the Fiscal Responsibility Act has been suspended, and we're also talking about debt ceiling, I don't see the difference because they are all supposed to achieve the same thing. What you need to ask for is for the restoration of the Fiscal Responsibility Act.
But so why should it be restored, especially when it is clear that
it came to Parliament?
I'm saying, especially even when it is enforced, it is clear from especially what the minority says. Those line items I was making mention of in our budgets that clearly we're not sticking to it. We're not applying it in the first place.
Before COVID-19, we were able to operate within the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2018.
By massaging the figures.
Oh, I don't know which figures were massaged, but I know that we were able to operate within the fiscal responsibility threshold of 5%. We did, I remember, 3.8 in 2018, 4.8 or so in 2019.
By moving some loans contracted, by moving certain projects outside of that sphere, of course you would get.
No, but you see, if you look at the budget, every budget doesn't contain all government expenditure.
No one is saying every budget does.
Yeah, so there will be some expenses that will not be captured by the budget. That is all the time. So it doesn't mean that government deliberately, massage.
So for you, as far
as
reported
to the World Bank and IMF, it was clear regarding our reporting format. It was clear, okay? The below the line and above the line, they were there. It was transparent. Nothing fishy about that.
All right.
But you see, Roxanne making a point about one of the loans, I think the $150 million to finance the public financial management for service delivery program. He had issues with that. But this report that he himself read was adopted by the finance committee. All the members on the committee adopted this report. So if the committee has adopted this report, you don't have to rubbish that report because it is a consensus report. There's another report here. The 60.6 million.
But clarify for me. Hold on. When it comes to Parliament, when consensus is used, it means that yes, maybe a majority.
No, all of them.
It does not necessarily. It doesn't always reflect
consensus
that you were all in agreement. Is that what it
in
reflects?
Parliament? Because he's my senior there. When you say consensus, it means that
because sometimes by a majority.
So this report, the
60
million, the 60.6 million, that report was by majority because the minority had raised issue about the expenditures of the COVID-19, COVID-19 issue. So if you look at the conclusion, the second paragraph, it says, the minority members of the committee, however, expressed the inability to support the approval of additional resources for COVID-19 when the expenditures already incurred in respect of COVID-19 could not be properly accounted for, and when the expenditure is a subject of an ongoing parliamentary inquiry. In view of the enormous potential and all that, if you read below, it says the committee by majority decision. Okay, so it means that it was majority that came out with this report. Okay, so that is the distinction. So If a committee of parliament sits on a matter and recommends to the House, we should credit them with good judgment. We can have our issues as individual members at plenary. We can have our views that might be at variance with what the committee members hold, okay? But it doesn't mean that because we have a contrary opinion or view on this, they didn't do a good job or something, okay? So that is the point I want to establish. This government is not just borrowing just for its sake. The borrowing is being done to fix the critical infrastructural gap that we find ourselves in. And I'm hoping that the policies that we've rolled out, the 1D, 1F, will be enhanced. We need to make sure that we are able to do more and proper value addition, export more to get in additional revenue. We should be able to also ensure that domestically, we are also able, okay, to shore up our revenue and reduce corruption in all sectors of the economy. If you're able to do this, I think that our dependency on borrowing will come. Will come down.
Let's take a few. I know you want to react. I'll just give you about a minute because I saw you shaking your head vigorously on a number of points. I want us to transition to something else. We'll talk about Justice Tokono, but even before that, I would want us to get into our forest situation, Galamsey, and how it's plaguing us. That's why I want us to make tracks. Quick reactions.
Okay. One, it's not correct that all these are not new loans. If you are considering a loan to be approved and it stays on your book for 5 years, it's not approved, it can be an old loan. Everything that it brings to Parliament is what makes it new. If you are considering a facility and it's sitting with you executive, Parliament doesn't know anything about it. That's one. Two, what is the meaning of parliamentary approval or rejection? One of the loans we rejected before we rose on 31st March.
What happened yesterday?
The motion was rescinded.
Yeah.
And was retabled.
So on old loan.
No.
The system.
No, I'm making a very technical point. When people expect Parliament to reject a proposal from government for some reason, then 2-3 weeks down the line, government comes back to have that reversed. What does it mean? So it means Parliament is so incapable. Because you can reject something today, it will come back tomorrow, and the same thing will be, the rejection motion will be reversed. So when people expect that we should reject things from government, I'm trying to make a point. We rejected one of the facilities. The government has gone and brought it back and got it approved.
But you could have.
Then the matter in respect of the committee report regarding the resource mobilization money. Why? I have a right as the elected representative of the people of South Nine to disagree even with Parliament.
I made that point, yeah.
You understand? So the fact that members, my caucus members on the committee reached a consensus with the committee members and came with a report recommending it doesn't mean I shouldn't express my strong views.
I didn't say that.
No, you suggested it. By your supposition, it means that it's a recommendation to the House.
But I said you can disagree, but it doesn't mean that...
But that's exactly what I'm doing. So you shouldn't have reacted.
Go ahead, Roxanne.
You understand?
Your 1 minute is actually up.
Then two, the suspension of the Fiscal Responsibility Act was because you breached it heavily during the 2020 running up to the elections.
Do you agree with him that instead of calling for a capping of borrowing and all of that, we should rather seek the reinstatement of the Fiscal Responsibility Act?
I agree with the latter option, which is the reinstatement of the law, because when Parliament passes the law, it's the responsibility of the executive to implement. And they've suspended some other laws. Look, here in Kenya, one of the recommendations that we took away from the seminar we attended is to get our executives to be capped. Today is running away from that candidate position. No, seminars that we contributed copiously. In fact, we were commended as one of the most outstanding country reps. Look, Professor Nyaku knows that if you don't cap a government, the government can go haywire like they are doing.
Even in the United States, we see
Thank
that
you.
happening.
So we need to be capped. It's one of the strongest recommendations.
I
and to
don't
also
want-
have a borrowing plan. Let us
Right.
know how much we want to borrow in the year. It's very important.
All right. Now let's.
but
You can't ask Parliament to
I don't
approve
want to
8
talk
loans in
about-
a day.
I'm not reacting to what they said.
8 loans in a
30,
day.
30
No, you see-
seconds. Let's go.
You see, our debt volumes also depend on the strength of our currency. When the budget was read, our debt situation was about 530, billion cedis, right?
Yeah.
Right? At that time, the exchange rate was about $1 was about 15 or 14.
It's government's
No.
duty to stabilize the economy.
I agree. But I'm saying that as we speak,
5.5.
The cedi has gained against the dollar. So it means that the debt position as at that
has
time
shifted slightly.
will come down because of so it means that if we are able to get one cedi, $1 to let's say 9 cedis or 10 cedis, that quantum will come down, and we can only achieve that. We can largely achieve that if we are able to, get some external cash, and that will be if we do value addition, we export more, okay, and get the money, increase our domestic tax mobilization.
The one is taking my time.
You are saying things that have already been prophesied, which have really not amounted to anything. If you look at the DDEP, how much, after all the pain that we've been through, how much has it shaved off? 1%, a paltry 1%. So maybe we should save that conversation for another day. But I just want us to quickly look at the Frimpong Boateng issue. I've not had the opportunity of discussing with members of parliament like this on that matter. A few matters, if you look at the Ghanaian Times today, the Forestry Commission CEO says there's no lease or permit granted to small-scale mining companies to operate in any forest reserve. In the meantime, when you look at the Daily Graphic today, I don't have it here, but it says, I think over 4,000 hectares have been, affected, despoliation of land and natural resources. Then you look at the investigative end, the OSP investigating Professor Frimpong Boateng's report. The Jubilee House initially came out and said investigations were underway. I do not know where that has gone to. But right after that, we had justifications from the same Jubilee House, representatives,
Saying what?
members
What
on
were the
social media,
justifications?
attacking, basically, Professor Frimpong Boateng. Yesterday also, we heard from the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, who was also saying, look, yes, he has presented a report. It's gathered dust for 2 years, by the way. It's now come to light. But there are portions that, yes, may have some meat in there, but other portions we may have to jettison. And he uses the words that what this report events is not scripture. But if you look at where we find ourselves, Galamsey, year on year, has become incrementally worse. I showed here footage that shows that rivers like the Pra, if you go there, what we saw last year, what we are seeing now, things are becoming murkier. The river is becoming dirtier. The Ankobra, the Brim, everything is maybe not gone. We've been told by scientists that it may take as much as 100 years if we stopped completely Galamsey activities. It may take about 100 years. By that time, maybe our great-great-grandchildren would be here. And what would be bequeathing to them? So what do you make of this report? And how do we show some real political will in the fight? The last I heard, we're going to employ the military and all of that again. We've done that. It has failed. Roxanne, I'll start with you. And looking at the passage of time, I'll give both of
I'll
you
be very brief.
3 minutes, 30 seconds.
But I'm pained that you fail to acknowledge that I've sent a petition to Shrag in this matter.
But I mentioned it earlier.
No, I didn't hear.
I mentioned it earlier. Okay. Did you hear me,
I
Prof?
thought I could re-emphasize.
I made mention of that earlier.
So re-emphasize.
In fact, that was when I was asking for your other names,
Yes.
and you said
okay, I agree, but re-emphasize. It's so important. Look, Professor Frimpong Boateng's report, but for the fact that he himself released it, that report could have been concealed from everyone. That is my position on the matter.
How problematic is that?
Because you see, he submitted the report in March 2021. It was released onto the public domain in later of March or in April 2023. After 2 clear years. Meanwhile, the report was sent to the office of the president. So if somebody suggests that he gathered dust, the dust gathering was intentional. It was intentional that he should gather dust. But it's been dusted off. It's receiving attention. So my position on the matter is that SHRAG should look into the matter.
The OSP is also looking into the matter.
All well and good. All well and good. Because I see why OSP will come in because of the corruption angle. Because that's their mandate. So SHRAG is mainly concerned with the conduct of public officers, abuse of office and all that. So all we are interested in is that we've invested heavily in fighting these Galamsey menace. So if the people, the gatekeepers who are supposed to go and protect the land, have turned themselves into the degraders, then the law will have to take its course.
In terms of the law taking its course, I think you have about a minute and a half left. It also cites, I noticed that usually when members of the NDC come, no one talks about the fact that it also points to at least one person, or about 2 of them, from your party.
I'll react to that.
How do you react? All Galamsey be Galamsey.
No. Yes, I agree. That portion of the report is so nebulous.
That portion is nebulous?
Yes. If you say NDC members, NDC has over 8 million registered members. I'm not trying to trivialize any matter, but you were very specific when it came to NPP actors.
But he mentioned one NDC.
Hold on. You see, he didn't mention his name. He said a former deputy minister,
I think in the Western region,
who is also a member of parliament, and then in the Western region.
But he mentioned a constituency.
That is an innuendo.
He did mention a constituency.
Yes. So I am not here.
So if your party wanted to dig, you would also call that, member of parliament.
But what I've done in my petition,
and follow through.
Hold on. What I've done in my petition is for SHRAG to look into the conduct of everyone. I'm not shielding anybody. Right. And the NDC won't shield anybody. Let this be placed on record that the NDC didn't hold this press conference to shield anybody. If any NDC member is found culpable, the law will apply equally.
All right. Let me come to you, Prof, on this matter, this vexed issue of Galamsey. And some feel your administration is trivializing the matter. Some feel this is a very serious issue that international bodies have also picked up. And we're treating it with kid gloves, so to speak.
I don't think so. I don't think so. The government means business. The government is doing everything possible to ensure that illegal mining activities in this country is done away with. The issue regarding
I just have an issue. I'll give you your 3 minutes on this. But tell me, look me in the eye, Prof.
Yeah.
Is government winning the fight against Galamsey? In fact, have we not, at this point, when you look at all the efforts from the military to everything, and to the sums of money we've invested from the IMCIM to others, are we winning anything against Galamsey?
The point I'm making is that...
No, I want you to address that question. No, have we won anything
against Galamsey? The point I'm making is that the government is fighting the menace. The government is making progress.
What progress?
I believe that this battle will be won. Coming back to Professor Frimpong,
if you're going to win a war, you start by winning battles. You are not winning any battle to talk of win a war.
You can also win it at the last minute. You can win it at the last minute in football.
So that's what the MPP is planning to do. Maybe in 2024, before elections, you win the war against Galamsey.
The point I'm making is that even in football at times, a team will be on the back foot, but that team will eventually...
No, your analogy is wrong.
Oh, it's not wrong.
Hold on.
You give him a second.
But when I was on the floor, you came. That's a small point. Battles are small bits of ice in a war.
I just mentioned that.
See? So if you use soccer analogy, soccer is a one-off.
No,
it's just one-off.
Soccer is a 90-minute.
So it's a one-off game.
It's 90. So it's not one of 90-minute activity.
It's a one-off.
So there is a process.
He may explain to you that there's the first battle in the first half, and the second battle.
And the second battle in time.
Go ahead.
So it is a difficult fight, by all accounts. But I will encourage the government to be still focused or more focused.
You're in
More
government.
determined.
Are you still encouraging government?
No.
I mean, by now, you
No.
should have been showing
No.
us results.
No. I mean, more courageous to name this in the back. Professor Pimpon's report, I've gone through it. I've gone through the report.
Do you believe it?
But that is why there's an investigation into it. So for me, I think that investigation will help us to get to the bottom of the matter. Some are saying that what is captured in the report is hearsay. I read of them. Some names have been mentioned and all that. They've also issued statement to deny what he has said. If I make a point, if I make allegation against you, and you come to defend it, your word against my word. So any independent body should be able to unravel the mystery for us to get to the bottom of the matter. And when that one is done, all those who are found culpable must be dealt with according to the records of the law. But you see, for me,
that's
all
the
is
problem.
painful.
That's
All
the
is
problem.
painful.
From the PPP boss
All is
to
painful.
everybody else who has been cited for anything in this administration,
Ben.
somehow nobody
Ben.
gets punished.
Ben.
Worst case scenario, you may fall
Ben.
to what Charles
Ben.
Ibuahin fell
Ben.
to. You may be
in
removed
this,
from your
in this
position.
country, in
That
this country,
is all.
in this country.
And Galamsey is criminal.
In this country, I'm saying that we must think about the nation first. That is very important. The government, the citizens, the media, everybody must see this as their unique obligation in ensuring that our water bodies, our forests are preserved for us today and for posterity. That is my point, because see, what is happening? People are involved and all that. If you are patriot, if you love your country, you think about posterity. You do everything
But the
possible
very people
to,
we say should love their countries, who are ministers and this and that, are the very people being pointed
And
to
the same-
by a former minister for engaging in the destruction,
and the same
spoliation
and the
of
same
our natural resources.
and the same individuals, the same citizens, the same media people, the same chief somewhere, the same greedy individuals are also people who, because of their selfish motivation and interest, are undermining the future of this country. This government must make sure that the reports from Professor Pimpon's, no matter how it is described, must be subjected to scrutiny, investigation properly conducted, and if we love this country, we must do the right thing to ensure that you see, individuals
All
get
right,
money.
point made. We're
Individuals
running
get
out of
money
time.
at the expense of the states.
Roxanne,
That is not.
do
That
you
is
expect
not
anything to
fair.
emanate from any of these investigations? OSP, Shraj, you
Yes,
petitioned
yes,
Shraj.
yes,
There's also, you're even calling for a parliamentary probe.
Yes,
into
that's from my leadership.
What are
That's
you?
from my
Yeah,
leadership.
I'm saying
I was
from the
going to make a
minorities
point
end.
once, 30 seconds. Yesterday, I was with Ken Japan. He said that he had an issue with Kwaku Bakun, at the court. And he invited, and Professor Mpobatin was a witness in the case, at least to come and
Testify
yes.
to a matter.
He didn't come. He didn't come. We don't know why he didn't even show up to testify, because Kwaku Bakun is captured in the document.
Yeah.
Come and testify. You didn't show up. So that's why we need to investigate to find out whether what is captured there are true hearsay or contrived.
All right. Thank you very much. I guess with time, we'll find out from the Shraj and from the
Sure,
OSP
sure,
end.
sure.
Professor Boateng will have his day and have his say.
All of them.
Definitely.
They will be the strike will hear all sides. You know, they will hear all sides, all the alteram. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Of course, we'll listen to the other
let's
side.
give them time.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy that they want to do a public hearing.
That is what you've been pushing for.
Yes.
That's what you've been calling
Yes,
for.
they've agreed.
Let's wrap the conversation by bringing in Justice Gertrude Tokonu. Decades of service to the country in the judicial system. She'll be the third in a string of women from, I think, around 2007, is it? Who have been Chief Justice in this country. She would be the third in line. What do you make of this latest development? What does this mean for our judiciary? The former president, John Dramani Mahama, has been castigating the judiciary, saying some things about
it's not me.
the like. No, he's questioned the posturing of the judiciary.
Yes, but
that of course is questioning.
in reference to some
he's even
specific
questioned
cases.
the Chief Justice himself.
Yes, in
Eleni
respect
Yeboah.
of some cases.
Exactly,
yes,
that is the
yes,
point I'm
yes.
making.
So
what then would this mean for you?
yes,
as the NDC?
I have a problem even with the CJ. CJ is my friend, but he
So,
and I,
Eleni
we've had
Yeboah?
yes, we've had
Right.
problems.
Right.
Because look, there are some constitutionally time-bound cases. For instance, I'm in court in respect of.
We don't have that much time.
That, for instance, I've challenged the power of the president to ask DCs when there's a transition, during the transition, to proceed to act in office without properly being appointed. That matter is still pending. We are in the third year. I've challenged the Yayin Telma report, Professor Yayin Telma report, seeking to make the first lady, second lady, Article 71 office holders to give them emolument. That matter is still in court. I don't know when that judgment will be delivered today. So when those constitutionally sensitive cases are filed, I expect that will be heard timeously. The minority is in court challenging the decision, all right, of Parliament to reverse the motion that rejected the budget in respect of the issue of the quorum. That matter has been pushed on the back burner. You understand my point? So when these things happen like that, it's a problem. It's a problem. But I've practiced before Justice Stockholm, both in the commercial court when she first came onto the bench as a High Court judge, and then when she was elevated to the Court of Appeal, and then to the Supreme Court a couple of years ago. So I know her very well.
How do you find her? I don't want to repeat this, but someone joined the show the other day and passed certain comments about how she relates, supposedly from lawyers, to members of the bar. I wouldn't go ahead to say what was said. And many people say very glowing things about her, but others have also expressed some concerns about how she treats lawyers in court. What's your reaction to that? I'll not state what the person said, because the person said it on my show anyway.
I think she's never embarrassed me in court. She's rather one judge who, during my formative years at the bar, would put you right and would tell you how to do things to improve. And yeah, so anytime you want to appear before her, you are well prepared. She was that kind of judge. And also Justice Tanko. The two of them, and then Barbara Kayensu.
I think he's due for retirement, right?
No, I'm not aware.
Okay.
I'm not aware. But Justice Tanko, Justice Tokonu, Justice Barbara Kayensu, and there was one. I'd forgotten his name. Those, the commercial court had 6 courts. And these were judges that, if you were going to the commercial division and you were appearing before any of these, you have to put your house in order. So there was that trepidation amongst lawyers, but I knew my law. I had my flair, so I never panicked. You go, you deliver, and the commercial practice slightly different from civil litigation, quasi-civil litigation, because it went through processes before you appear before a judge. There's an initial process where issues will be settled and all that before you appear before a substantive judge. So they did well at the Court of Appeal level too, and appeared before them so many times. Myself and Justice Tanko and Barbara Kayensu. And all of this had a special relationship, perhaps with my boss, Chasaibo, Togbe Teprehodo. So perhaps, in practice, if you came from a certain chamber, there is a way that judges look at you. Yes, if you were practicing from some chamber, there's a way they look at you. They knew that from this chamber, the training is this way. Yes. So perhaps that also...
All that factored in.
Yes.
What do you think it would mean for our democratic practice?
Yes, a third CJ. But I think...
Female.
Yes, the issue that people have are some of views in terms of some of the political question cases. But we'll see how it goes.
All right, we'll see how it goes.
But I wish her all the best. She and I, we have very good relationship.
All right.
Yes.
For you,
Yes.
what does this mean?
Yeah, so I mean, it's good. It's good for her. I don't know her personally, okay. But I've read a little about her, being 19 years with the Judiciary, 4 years at the Supreme Court, and I think that at her age, and her pedigree, she'll be able to help us to move. Further within our legal framework. I know much about the current CJ Aniaboa and my very good friend Duche. I worked with them when I was at NAB, and we went to visit institutions that run law programs. That was when I saw Aniaboa, his understanding and his focus and motivation, very conservative. I mean, he will always make sure that they have the law reports and the books, everything there, you know what I mean? So when he became the CJ, I was not surprised because he's meticulous, he's very conservative, and also very firm, you know what I mean? And if you look at what he has done, I'll come there. Look at what he's done. You see, his focus for me was the establishment of courts that he has done. So I'm hoping that Tokonu Gertrude will follow in his suit and do something different to enhance the image of the legal profession and judiciary. She has to be firm, she has to be bold and dispense impartial judgment. We have our considerations in deciding everything, religious, political, and all that. But if she wants to make a huge impact, she wants to be on the minds of the citizens, I will encourage her to be bold and firm and dispense justice without fear or favor. Right. I think that if she did this, society will benefit, her image will soar, and the rest will be history. I wish her all the best. Let us understand, as human beings, then we have our differences and our biases. But at the end of the day, we must look at the person on what they've done contextually and come to a reasoned judgment and conclusion. You don't look like we are very good friends. We went to Kenya together. As usual, he tried to bully me, but at the point, somebody told him that you don't have to do that. You know what I mean? So I wish her all the best. Let our judiciary win. Let our democracy be deepened, and let us not mistrust people who have been nominated for position because you think that they might be aligned to A, or because they were nominated by A, by all means, that person will do the bidding of the person that did nominate them. If we continue that tangent, we will be suspicious of the actions and movements of some people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining the conversation today. It's been a good one, and keep up the yeoman's job that you're doing in your constituencies. I found it very interesting the way we started. Yeah. Both of you are doing some fantastic stuff in your constituencies. Do keep it up, and of course the people
vote for him
need more. And Roxanne, don't forget to send me the photos you spoke of. Yes. We'll use that as evidence later on. Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo, I nearly murdered your name. Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo. He murders my name all the time.
Really?
Should I say it?
But I've mastered it now.
Even the last time we spoke on phone or so, I don't know why he tends to call me Agbeko. I don't know why. My Akapo, he turns it upside down. So today, if I've done a little to you, Roxanne Nelson Eche Kwame Dafiamekpo is Member of Parliament for South Dai. We also had now Professor Kingsley Nyako, Member of Parliament for Kwara. So they both joined the conversation this morning. But stay with us.